Video showing how I 3D print drone maps. So in this case, this is a map I flew of my house. I kind of flew it below the trees so I wouldn't get all the foliage in there. I used Drone Deploy to process it, but you can see it's a decent 3D model. It's not the most amazing, but I don't know. There's some issues like this little tree blob that's kind of coming out the roof there, and this floating umbrella that we'll have to take care of. But for the most part, I'd say it's pretty respectable. So the next step is to go and make an export. So you can go to 3D model and make an export here. I already did one, and I downloaded it and then imported the OBJ into Blender. You're going to need Blender for this, or there's probably other programs, but this is the one I kind of know how to use, so that's what you get. You can go into File, Import, and then OBJ to import that. And for some reason, this is what it looks like right after I imported it. As you can see, I do not really know the controls very well. But for some reason, the Drone Deploy 3D exports are tilted 90 degrees for some reason. But I usually just zero that out and then right click, set origin, and then geometry to origin. And that kind of moves it into the center. So from there, we have a whole bunch of other stuff in my backyard that I do not want to print. And also the sides of my neighbors' houses. So to get rid of those, this is a little bit tricky, but I try to align it so it's nice and straight and the lines are parallel with the screen. So kind of a nadir, if you will. And then what I'm going to do, there's probably a better way to do this, but you know, this is the way I know how, so it is what it is. I go into edit mode, and actually in object mode, I'll look and see roughly where I want to cut it. Oh shoot, see, it's pretty easy to mess up if you don't know what you're doing. But for me, I'll cut it at this like first little line below the green one. So I'm gonna put my finger there on the screen. That's kind of my redneck way of doing it, but I'll go into edit mode. And the key here is to go into viewport shading or set it to the wireframe mode. And then I'll just drag and do that, and then press the X key and delete the vertices. And there we go, it gets rid of it. And I'll get rid of the rest in a second, but that's just drawing the line. And here back in object mode, you can see what we're working with again. So I'll go with this line here. I'm going to put my finger on the screen, go over to edit mode again. And if this is daunting for you, or if you have a messier model that needs more work, I would probably just find somebody on Fiverr or something like that to do a nice job. The one I posted on Reddit, I had a friend do that's like a professional at 3D modeling and stuff. So that was super helpful. But we're just going to rinse and repeat there with the other sides. I'm going to grab there and hope I just get the fence is my goal. Going to delete the vertices. Come back into edit mode. Move the camera down to here. I'm going to try to get the sidewalk, I suppose, but some of that tree is going to be in there, but that's okay. We'll get rid of that in a second. Then we'll get rid of that. And from there, we've got a pretty good area. We can just really quickly delete all the rest of the vertices that we don't want. And then, oh goodness. Now, if we go back into object mode, we can take a closer look at some stuff and start to clean it up a little bit more. With 3D printing, it's really hard to print overhangs. You'll have to use support, and some of this stuff just would not print well at all. Like really thin things are just not going to turn out well. So best to remove those. This tree is an obvious one. That is not going to work out well, so we're just going to delete that. Same sort of X, and then deleting the vertices. Looks like this is a side of something, and the umbrella there, and whatever that is back there, we'll go ahead and select all that. And my trick here, it selects more than you need, but if you turn the camera, then you can, I think, shift. Oh, that was not right. Command? Yeah, command, click, drag to deselect a bunch of stuff. And there we can see we've got a much better selection of what we actually want. So we'll go ahead and delete that. Now we're going to have to clean up this tree blob that's coming off the side of the house. It might be a little bit tricky. Now, as I said, I do not really know what I'm doing here. So I can guarantee better ways to do this and make it look better. But it works. Oops. Do shift to select a little bit more. I'm gonna, ooh man, the controls are really, they throw me for a loop. I'll do shift a little bit more and just kind of keep grabbing stuff. Yeah, there we go. And just do the best job we can. It doesn't have to be perfect. It'll be all right. And we probably need to hit it from the side of the house too. And whenever you delete stuff, I would highly recommend turning the camera and looking at what other stuff you selected. I did not realize I selected that stuff. I didn't mean to. So make sure you're not deleting stuff that you didn't mean to, otherwise you're going to have a mess on your hands and have to undo a bunch of stuff. I know from experience. Let's see, maybe a little bit more around the edges. I'd say that looks pretty good. I'm going to need to deselect this stuff and then delete those vertices. And let's go back into object mode, see how we're looking. Much better. Now as you can see, we've got a hole in the model, and we've probably got another couple holes from the other little deletions we did down here. It's a little hard to tell in wireframe mode, but in the mesh mode it's, oh, maybe not actually. Oh yeah, there's a hole on that tree. Actually, I think I just want to get rid of that whole tree and these tiny little fence posts or whatever they are over here. We're gonna get the camera angle just right, as best we can at least. Hop back into wireframe, go to edit, and I'm sure you get the idea. You can probably skip ahead, but go ahead and try to unselect some of this stuff we want to keep. There we go. Probably just all this. And look at it from another angle too. Make sure we're really just getting what we want. Yep. And that. Oh, got some extra little floaters. Whoops. I never thought I'd see the day that I'm making a Blender tutorial, but here we are. So we're going to delete those vertices as well. Hop over into edit mode, or object mode, sorry. Take a look, and we're looking pretty good. I think this should print fairly well. The side of the house is going to look a little weird, and that's fine. It is what it is. Oh, that's going to cause some problems right there. The remnants of the chair. Now, of course, if you knew what you were doing, you could fix this stuff and make it look like an actual chair, or fix the umbrella and make it look legit. But because I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't really want to learn, it's easier just to delete stuff. Oh, and there's this floating stuff up here too. I'm gonna grab that. Unselect, unselect. Grab this too. Delete all that. And I want to delete this too. thought I already did, but must have missed it. Whoops. Okay, just gonna clean this up a little bit. Yep. There we go, good enough. All right. So I think that's looking pretty good. We'll do one more quick pass and make sure that nothing looks too crazy or out of whack. These bushes are probably going to cause some problems. I might touch those up real quick. Whoops. If you don't go into wireframe mode, it only selects like the top layer of stuff, so it won't like go back through, which you kind of want. But there we go. Deselect all that. Now it's important to remember where you've deleted stuff because you're going to have to fill in these holes after. That's a pretty important part of this process. This bush is not gonna print well, so we're just gonna get rid of it. Or you could like add a base to it and make it look good, but I don't know how, so we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna delete it. Oh well. Deselect all this stuff. Yep. There we go. Delete that. Switch back, and I think we're looking pretty good. Yep, it should be decent. You want to make sure the edges are fairly like straight. I'm not sure what the right way to say that is, but you don't want stuff like popping out across the edges, and you'll see why in just a second. But overall, I'm happy with this. I'd say let's go to the next step. So next we need to go to edit mode, and you can stay in the, what is this, the solid shading. I think it makes it a little easier. And we're gonna, oh actually there's, probably want to get rid of that little vertice. But you can click on an edge like this. Actually probably need to put it in edge select mode here. And then select an edge with Alt. And then you can see that's going to make, oh, actually that should be fine. We're going to make a new face by pressing the F key, and that will fill that in. And something's weird is going on there, but we'll make another face. And you can see it's just one flat face. I think you could like decimate that and into a bunch of triangles and then kind of mess with it and make it look nice, but I don't have time. There, we're gonna do another one, and let's see, we need to fill this gap in. Where else? This hole. And sometimes the 3D models out of like Drone Deploy, for example, will have some holes in them just from like where there's not good data or good coverage, so you got to look out for that. We need to make this, right now it's just a flat sheet and it's hollow, and we can't print that. So to fix that, in edit mode, we're going to select the edge around the outside with the same Alt click that we're doing for the rest. And I try to come over to the side so it's like that, and then hit E. And that's going to let me extrude it down. We'll extrude it a little ways, and that's probably fine. But if you have big height differences on the edges, you can see here it extrudes everything down the same amount. So you got to go kind of far if you have like really tall features or a side of it is much higher than the other. Otherwise, it's not going to cover the whole thing. And it's fine that this is way bigger than what we actually want to print. We'll trim it down later. But yeah, I used E to do that, and then we'll use the F key to make a face. Maybe. Come on. There we go. And now we're going to export that. and we'll put it in there. I guess that overwrote it, hopefully. Let's see. So if I go and import that, oh man, one sec. There we go. Now we can see it's a solid object. And I get these errors, these manifold edges. Sometimes that causes a problem, sometimes it doesn't. But as it recommends, you'll probably want to use Windows for this. I'm on a Mac right now, but I have a Windows machine that I use for this sometimes. But this is, yeah. But you'll have like a little fix model option, and then it'll go ahead and trim everything. But you can see here we've got a few issues that probably want to solve. I'm going to scale it up so it's actually a decent size. You can see the whole thing is tilted, so I'm going to tilt it and try to level it out a little bit. Now the controls in here are different than Blender, so it's nice and confusing. But there we go. That's pretty level. And then I'm going to use this cut tool to cut, oops, didn't mean to do that, meant to do this. So you can drag that down to where everything is included. And that looks pretty good, pretty happy with that. And this will make it so you're not having to print that whole gigantic base. I'm pretty happy with that. Perform cut, and now you can see we've got two different sections. And I think this is probably where we'd need to use Windows because it doesn't close off the sections, it looks like. So we can see just right now, if we slice it, how that's going to look. And it actually looks all right. I want to flip through and make sure, but yeah, this looks fine. You can see like this is going to be a big overhang, so I want to turn on support for this. I'll use tree support. If we slice it, there we go. 30-minute print, not bad. Actually, it seems like it thinks it can pull it off without supports. I'm not sure that I buy that, but who knows, I guess. Let's see. That's the gist of it. You'll see the edges are still kind of like wonky and ugly here. So to fix that, I usually go here and I'll tilt this 90 degrees. And then I will drag it. And then we'll cut it just on the edge there. So we're just trimming off just the edge and gonna make it flat. And it decided to flip it. That's awesome. Love that. And there's probably a way to like make the edges straight in Blender, but I don't know how. And this is the easy way, so, or at least the way I know how. We'll delete the little sliver. You get the idea. We'll do that same thing for the other sides, and then we'll have a nice looking model. Hopefully that doesn't, oh, see that really broke it. Yeah, if you use Windows, the cutting works so much better. It'll like actually close off the edges and stuff, and it doesn't make a wreck of things. But that's the idea. If we back out and just leave that edge on there, slice it up, I think I might actually print this. It looks decent. As far as print settings go, I found 0.12 to be pretty good for this printer. Mainly because I like the contour lines. You can kind of, they're really noticeable since this is pretty small, but if we scale it up to, oh, I guess it didn't scale. There we go. Let's see. It'll probably use support for this. There we go. Oh no, it made a mess. Yeah, use Windows. Anyway, you can kind of see here on the deck, you can see like the elevation change, and it kind of makes these contour lines baked into the model, which I think that's pretty cool. If you don't think that's cool, you could go for a super crazy high res like layer height, but I like him. So I like 0.12 or 0.16. That seems to be pretty good. Anyway, that's it.